Alright, $70. Let that sit for a second. $70 is what Nintendo is asking for Pokemon Pokopia on the Switch 2, and I'll be completely honest with you, when that price was first announced, I did a double take. Then I reread it, then I did another double take. Because $70 is a lot of money for anyone, but it's a particularly bold ask for a life simulation game. Even one wearing the Pokemon brand. And that's the conversation we're having today. Not just, is this game fun, but is this game $70 of fun? Because those are two very different questions. I want to give you a real answer to that, so I spent the last couple of days going through dozens of reviews from major outlets, IGN, Polygon, Eurogamer, Game Informer, VGC, Games Radar, plus community threads and player forums. Real post-launch feedback from real players, not just preview coverage. And here's the short version. Pokopia has landed as the highest rated Pokemon game in the franchise's 30-year history. Metacritic is sitting at 89, IGN gave it a 9, Game Informer gave it a 9, and VGC gave it a perfect 5 out of 5. So the answer to is it worth $70 is already pointing in a pretty clear direction. But let's actually dig into why, because the reasons are interesting. Before we get into all of that though, I want to take a second to talk about today's sponsor, Instant Gaming, and I promise this is actually relevant to the video. Instant Gaming is a platform that sells legitimate digital game codes at seriously reduced prices. We're not talking a couple of quid off, we're talking discounts that are sometimes 30, 40 or even 50% below what you'd pay on the official storefronts. They work with a network of verified sellers, all the codes are checked and guaranteed to work, and if for any reason a code doesn't activate, they have a customer support team that will sort it out for you. I've used it myself, it's legitimate, it's fast, and it's become my first stop before buying any new release. Because why pay full price if you don't have to? Right now, Pokemon Pokeria is listed on Instant Gaming at a discount off the $70 retail price. So if you're already leaning towards picking it up, check the link in the description first. It could save you a meaningful chunk of money and you'll get your code instantly. Link is in the description box below. Okay, let's get into the game. So first, what kind of game is this? Because Pokemon Life Sim is a broad description that doesn't quite capture it. The game was co-developed by Koei Tecmo's Omega Force, the studio behind Dragon Quest Builders 2, and Game Freak, and that collaboration is really the key to understanding what makes it tick. You play as Ditto, who has woken up in a desolate, withered world where humans have mysteriously disappeared. Your companion, Professor Tangrowth, guides you as you use Ditto's transformation abilities to take on the moves of other Pokemon. Leafage to grow plants, Rock Smash to break walls, Surf to cross water. As you attract more Pokemon by building habitats they want to live in, you unlock more abilities, which lets you shape more of the world, which attracts more Pokemon. It's an elegant loop, and the world itself is block-based, think Dragon Quest Builders rather than Animal Crossing. Every block in the environment is yours to excavate, rearrange, or rebuild. You're not just decorating a pre-built town, you're literally reshaping the terrain. Multiple distinct lands open up progressively as you play, and with 300 Pokemon to catalogue, the story ending is very much not the game ending. Let's put the numbers on screen, because they're remarkable for a franchise that's had a rough few years critically. Metacritic, 89. That's not just a strong score, that is the highest score any Pokemon game has ever received on Metacritic in the franchise's entire 30-year history, beating out the previous record holder, Pokemon Y, by a single point. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10, and GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10. VGC gave it a perfect 5 out of 5, calling it one of the best life sim games they've ever played. Gaming Bible called it a Game of the Year contender. Multiple outlets gave it full marks. An OpenCritic has it in the 98th percentile of all games ever scored on the platform. 93% of critics recommend it. That is not what a $40 game looks like, that is what a legitimate AAA release looks like. And here's what the reviews actually say about the gameplay, because I think this is the most important part. The habitat building system is the core of it. You need to figure out what each Pokemon species needs in terms of environment, light levels, humidity, and decorations to attract them and keep them comfortable. The happier your residents, the higher your environment level, the more you can unlock. It sounds simple, but reviewers consistently say it has surprising depth that keeps revealing itself the longer you play. Game Informer's reviewer, who gave it a 9, said they had a difficult time putting it down. VGC said the game is as full of discovery at 100 hours as it was at 1, and IGN said it strikes a healthy balance between freedom and suggestion. One IGN Benelux reviewer noted the credits rolled for them at around 35 hours, and even after that, they still had plenty to keep them occupied. The Pokemon themselves behave in genuinely surprising ways. They interact with each other organically, two Eevees chasing each other, a Snorlax drifting off to sleep, a Meowth batting at a decoration, and you can actually have real conversations with them, which reviewers note is something the mainline games have never really done. Some Pokemon approach you with games to play, or just show up to say thank you and hand you a jar of honey. It's charming in a way screenshots can't fully capture. Technically, the game is flawless, stable performance, clean load times, no bugs at launch. For anyone who played Scarlet and Violet at release and spent the first month dealing with frame rate issues and visual glitches, that polish is not something to take for granted. The lighting, the water rendering, the Pokemon models, this is genuinely beautiful work. These are probably the best looking versions of these characters we've ever seen in a video game. Audio design is excellent across the board, with fully orchestrated music that shifts dynamically based on weather and time of day. The UI is clean, fast, and intuitive. This feels like something built with genuine care and a real budget, because it was. Omega Force confirmed this required the largest development team they've ever assembled in their 30-year history. Every major review brings up Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing, and that's appropriate. These are the genre benchmarks. And when you're charging $70 for a cozy life sim, those comparisons are going to happen. But here's where it gets interesting. Because Pokopia isn't really trying to replicate either of those games. The Dragon Quest builder's influence from Omega Force means the building and crafting systems are deeper and more block-based than Animal Crossing. Reviewers who compared the two often said they preferred Pokopia's flavor. It relies more on building and exploring, and less on waiting for real time to pass. The Stardew comparison is less apt than it might seem. Pokopia isn't a farming sim. It's a habitat builder and world reconstruction game. The loop is more Dragon Quest builders than Stardew Valley. And on that axis, it competes very favourably. One area where some reviews note a constraint is progression between lands is story-gated, meaning you can't immediately access every area. But within each area, the block-based world gives you genuine creative freedom. You build bridges, excavate terrain, and reshape the environment entirely. It's more open than Animal Crossing in terms of what you can physically do to the world. The social systems are richer than they might appear up front. Beyond the habitat mechanics, there's a lore drop system that gradually reveals what happened to the world. The relationship depth with individual Pokemon and emergent behaviour keeps surprising players well into the late game. But it's fair to ask, how much of what makes this special is the Pokemon IP, and how much is the underlying game design? And honestly, for me, it's both. The Omega Force team brought genuine expertise in block-based world building from Dragon Quest builders. And that system is strong on its own merits, but the Pokemon layer isn't just cosmetic. The fact that collecting means understanding what each creature needs, rather than catching or battling them, is genuinely a novel take on the franchise's core theme. Several reviewers called it the most mature Pokemon game ever made. The emotional resonance of seeing these characters, some of which players have known for 30 years, living organically in a world you built for them, is real. But it's supported by systems that are doing genuine heavy lifting underneath. I don't need to spend too long here because the critical consensus is unusually unanimous. The presentation is excellent. Stable performance, beautiful lighting, the best Pokemon models ever rendered in a video game, dynamic audio and instant load times. It feels finished. It feels cared about. The spontaneous behavioral moments are genuinely standout. These aren't scripted animations triggered by specific conditions. There's a behavior system generating organic interactions between creatures. And reviewers keep mentioning specific moments they stumbled into that felt genuinely alive. It's impressive work. For a game at this price point, that level of technical polish is expected. But after some high-profile Nintendo releases that launched in, let's say, rough shape, it's still worth acknowledging when something ships clean, and this one does. The player community response mirrors the critic scores. Dedicated Pokemon fans are having a wonderful time, posting screenshots, sharing which Pokemon they've attracted, celebrating the little behavioural moments. The joy is visible and real. Cozy game players who came in primarily as fans of the genre, rather than specifically of Pokemon, have had more mixed responses. Some absolutely loved it, a handful feel the block building focus isn't quite what they were expecting from an Animal Crossing style experience. That's a genre fit question though, more than a quality question. User reviews on Metacritic are leaning strongly positive, with players logging dozens of hours and still feeling like they've barely scratched the surface. One reviewer noted they played 20 hours and only seen 2 of the game's lands. Let me be direct, because that's what you want from a video like this. If you are a Pokemon fan, buy it. This is the best reviewed Pokemon game ever made, and the systems underneath the IP are genuinely strong. Use the instant gaming link to save some money, but by all means buy it. If you are a cozy game player who's drawn to this primarily by the genre, check whether the Dragon Quest Builders style block building appeals to you. If it does, absolutely buy it. But if you are hoping for something closer to a pure Animal Crossing experience, it's worth watching gameplay footage first to make sure the building focus is exactly what you want. But know that the critical consensus says the systems are deep and rewarding. If you're completely new to both Pokemon and cozy games, this is actually a surprisingly welcoming entry point. The mechanics are accessible, the story is engaging, and there's enough here to keep you occupied for a very long time. If you're a parent buying this for a younger Pokemon fan, this is an excellent pick. The content is age appropriate, the game is visually beautiful, and the accessible block building mechanics are going to resonate with kids who have grown up with Minecraft. Pokemon Pokeria is a genuine achievement. Not just for the Pokemon franchise, but as a life sim in its own right. An 89 on Metacritic, the franchise's best score ever, dozens of hours of content, and systems that reviewers are still discovering surprises in at the 100-hour mark. It's a great looking, great performing, technically excellent game, with more depth than its cozy aesthetic suggests. At $70 with what's actually here, I'd say the math kinda works. The cozy game genre has been delivering incredible value for years. Pokopia is the first title in the genre that's genuinely competing at the AAA level. In quality, in ambition, and yes, of course, in price. But based on the evidence, I would say it's earned it. I want to hear your take on this one in the comments. Have you already played it? Are you a Pokemon fan who was already on board? Or did the review scores push you over the line? Drop it all in the comments. I read all of them and respond when I can. And before you go, if you want to grab Pokemon Pokeria at a discount, the instant gaming link is in the description box below. It saves you a chunk of money off the retail price, and as I said, it's a legitimate service I've used myself. And if this video gave you something useful, a subscribe goes a long way. It helps me keep making this kind of in-depth breakdown instead of just quick reaction content. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.